Hi all, this is my first Instagram story and it's a good one. I'm looking especially for all of my sewing friends. I've done a lot of costuming over the years and last night I was asked to do some really important work. With the coronavirus outbreak, there's a shortage of medical supplies. My husband works at a skilled nursing facility and his patients are mostly elderly and they are all already sick in some way. So they are definitely a very high risk population. So they are short on gowns and masks. And as we've been searching for them, we found out that hospitals all over the nation are actually making their own. And so I was asked last night to begin a prototype and ask for help for making gowns and masks. I have a link to a mask, but I had to make my own pattern for a gown. The reason we need so many is that if you have a patient with coronavirus, they are highly contagious, and every time anyone enters the room, they have to put on a new gown. And that gown is shed the second they come out. And the disposable ones, they just throw away. But the problem is they cannot order more. What they have, and when it runs out, it's gone. So if we make these sewn gowns, then they can immediately throw them into a washing machine. They can put them on their highest heat setting and sterilize them, and they'll be reusable, and they can use multiple. The thing is, they're going into these rooms 25 times a day, and so that means 25 gowns, and they don't have a disposable supply of those. So the reusable gowns are our best bet. So follow along with me and I will show you how to make them. We're looking for people to donate fabric. If you have sheets in your closet, ideal fabric would be polyester blends, but they will take whatever they can get. They are on emergency measures right now, so you get what you get and you do the best you can, and they're hoping that this will at least add another barrier to help prevent the spread of coronavirus. Okay, so I was told I needed to have good lighting for this video by a friend, so I moved it into my home gym. So this is where we are. I moved everything out almost. So I'm showing you right now how you can make a gown out of a twin size sheet. So if your cupboards are full of sheets, maybe you don't have fabric large enough, I'll have the fabric dimensions posted also, but a twin size sheet can make a full gown. So, and obviously larger sheets would work too, but I'm showing you on the hardest one, a fitted sheet. So first of all, let's start with cutting off the elastic so we can lay it flat. Okay, now we got that cut off. So now I'm just gonna cut the edges so it lays flat. I don't care where the seam lays. I'm just gonna cut it straight out this way. You can tell the seam of the fabric goes that way. That doesn't matter. We just want this to lay flat and have the most access to fabric. So I'm just gonna cut it so I can get it to lay flat as best as I can. So we'll do that to all four corners. Okay, so now that it's flat, I folded up the fabric. This is my pattern and it's on the fold. My pattern is 57 inches wide by 22 inches. So make sure you do it on the fold. When you open it up, it's going to be 44 inches. So 22 inches that way, 57 inches this way. And this is going to be the body part of the gown. Okay? This we are going to open up and we are going to fold the opposite direction. I hope that isn't too tricky. That's super important. So I just want you to put one pin in the corner, and this pin is going to stay in for a while. This is actually marking the center of the front of the neck. So make sure you keep that pin in. Okay, now you're ready to open it up. Open the entire fabric up. Whoops, let me lay it down here. Now, take each corner and fold it in to where the pin is. So what you are looking at right now is the back of the gown. This is the back of the gown. So now I am going to open up the back. This is now the front that we're dealing with. So what you're gonna do is get a ruler, measuring tape, whatever, and put it 4.5 on the pin. Remember, the pin's important. And you're gonna mark out at the 0 and out at the 9. We're making the neck hole 9 inches long. Then you're gonna measure down from the pin. You're gonna measure down 3 inches and make another mark. Okay, did that make sense, I hope? Okay, now a plate is your miracle worker. So use the plate to connect all 3 dots. Draw a circle. That is your neck hole. Okay, cut out the neck hole. Now your pin is relieved of its work. Okay, so you have the front done. Okay, so now on each of the sides, we're now making the hole for the sleeve. So you're gonna measure down 11 inches. I have this at 11, and so I'm gonna mark right here. And then I'm gonna mark in 1 inch. It doesn't have to be perfect. These are literally gonna be on and then off in seconds. Now, I like to just pin, because I'm gonna cut, but the pins will kind of hold it in place so the fabric stays where I want it to stay. And then I'm really just gonna eyeball cut from this mark to this mark. And that's about all. Now you're gonna do the same thing to the other side. Okay, so I have the right side of my fabric out right now. If you folded it the opposite direction and have the right side in, then you're good. But if you have the right side out like me, you're gonna flip it around and you are gonna pin your shoulders together. I hope that didn't look too strange. Right sides together, okay? Just remember, right sides together, whichever way you had your fabric. Make sure now you have the good side together, the pretty side. If there's not a pretty side, it doesn't matter. Same thing to the other shoulder. So we're pinning that. And I'm going to bring this around and pin this. Now that you have it pinned, you're going to sew those shoulders. Okay, so you've got the shoulders pinned now. This is the front of the gown. It's the inside. You're going to flip it, but you're going to just sew the shoulders together right here and right here. Okay, shoulders are done. Okay, now that you've finished the body part, we're going to move on to the sleeves. So go back to that remainder fabric from the original fitted sheet. You should have enough left to do the sleeve. So make sure you, first of all, I just cut off the random little trashy part that we don't need. So the bigger chunk you're going to fold in half this way. Okay. Just the best you can. Fitted sheets are kind of wonky, but hopefully they're going to work now. Okay, now I made a pattern for the sleeve. It is super simple. I started with a 24 by 24 inch rectangle. I guess it would be a square at the beginning. So 24 inches wide. And then this is around the shoulder where it insets into the body. This is the length of the sleeve. Now, they wanted it tighter at the wrist because they tuck them into their gloves. So the wrist is cut 11 inches wide. And what I did is just cut it in half, folded it in half. So I measured from this end, and then at this end, I measured 5.5. So together it'd be 11 inches. And then I made a straight edge cut all the way to here. I just used a straight edge, so that's easy how to make your pattern. So then lay the pattern on here. I have it folded over because you're gonna make 2 sleeves. You're not cutting on the fold. Each of this is one entire sleeve. So I have it laid out here. You can pin it if you want. I'm not gonna pin, I'm just gonna cut. So now you have 2 sleeves. Let's go put them together. So for those of you who haven't seen one of these gowns, this is what we're making. Look how thin this is. My husband says it's coated in some protective something, but it is super thin. So this is a huge important part. They said when they put these gowns on, they actually pop their thumb through so it makes a hole in it, so it holds it down tight on their wrists, so that when they put their gloves on, they actually pull their gloves up over the end of the sleeve, and that keeps it sanitary. Now, we can't poke our thumb through a hole in the fabric, so we're gonna actually have to leave a hole. So when we're sewing the sleeve, you have to leave a 2-inch hole for the thumb right near the end. I'll show you. Before we actually pin the sleeve, we are going to finish the end of the wrist. Now this does not have to be fancy, but we do want it to be finished. We don't want it to fray as it's gonna get washed many, many times. So I'm just gonna do a zigzag stitch across the wrist only. We don't have to do the rest of it, but just the wrist. You can fold it over, you can do it fancy if you want. I don't have time for that. We're doing hundreds and hundreds, thousands of these. So I am perfectly happy with a simple zigzag. It rolls it up a little bit. I think that looks fine. It's functional and it won't fray. So that is done. That's my edge. Honestly, also, side note, I don't care what color thread you use. If you want to get rid of a brown or an orange or whatever, nobody cares. Use whatever you have. And you don't even have to match the sleeves to the body. And now, if you're like me, you get sewing and your brain forgets things. So I like to use a different color pin. So to remind me to put that hole in, I will put a blue pin. So what I do is sew the end really, really well. So I'm gonna sew really well right here, and then I'm gonna leave about 2 inches of a gap for their thumb, and I'm gonna put another blue pin, and then the rest of it will be yellow. In my mind, it works. Blue pin means something different. It means stop or remember to do something. So if that works for you, great. Otherwise, just try and remember, because that thumb hole is really important. Time consuming for us, but important for medical staff to be as sanitary as they can in difficult circumstances. So let's just finish pinning this. Good. Okay, ready to sew the arm sleeves. Now remember, we have to leave a hole, and you want to leave it as close to the end as possible. I'll go up a little bit, but sew that really good because we don't want their thumb popping the stitching. So make sure you go back and forth over that quite a few times, as best you can. So we're just gonna finish stitching up the sleeve. We're just gonna inset the sleeve now. We've already pinned it, so we're gonna go ahead and just sew around. So okay, we're ready to attach the sleeves to the gown. So I laid my gown, remember the good side is on the inside, and we are gonna inset the sleeve. So we want to put, you always put pretty sides together. So right now my sleeve is the ugly side out, the pretty side in. So what I'm gonna do is flip it so the pretty side shows. This is the way I like to inset sleeves. Now, you love that little thumb hole? Remember that's there? Okay, so take your sleeve. Now this is contradictory to the way I normally do it, but they want the thumb hole up. So the seam is actually gonna go up. Normally I put a seam down, but remember we don't care how pretty these are. So we're gonna put the seam up, and so the thumb hole, when they put it in, it'll be up. They can just slide their thumb right in, which means seam goes up. So what you're gonna do, open the sleeve hole. You're gonna put it in like this. So skinny part goes through first. And then I'm gonna start by just pinning these sleeves. So pin that all the way around and then get ready to sew them in. Done. First sleeve in. Let's see how it works. The idea is, look at, there's my thumb. Let's do the other one. We've got both of them done. This is what it's gonna look like. We need to do the ties, and we also need to finish. We're gonna zigzag around the side and the bottom just to finish that off so it doesn't fray. And then I'll show you how to do the ties, but let's zigzag first. Okay, so this gown has ties around the neck and around the waist. The one around the waist is 85 to 90 inches long. So it's really, really long. Now, last night when I made my prototype, I cut fabric strips and I sewed them together to get them long enough, folded them in half and did a zigzag down. Didn't have to be pretty. If you have ribbon, you can use that. This morning I remembered I have a bunch of leftover bias tape from a project I did 15 years ago, and I've never done anything else with it. So I'm gonna use bias tape on this. So I'm gonna measure. I need it to be, I'm gonna just go with 90 inches. The reason is, it's not just attached to the back that you tie together, it actually attaches to the front and then wraps around their whole body. And a lot of this, they're one size fit all, so the smaller people will wrap it around twice and then tie it in front. Larger will tie it in back, but it has to be able to completely close to keep sterile, basically. So it does have a reason for attaching in front. The one around the neck is 55 inches. So bias tape I'm super excited about because it's already got the fold ready for me, because the one around the neck, actually we're gonna put over the edge to make the neckline finish that seam off. So that's good to go. So I've got my 2 bias tapes ready to go. Okay, let's do the neck first. So I folded the bias tape in half. If you just have a strip of fabric, I did 1 inch wide and then I just folded it over. I'm putting a pin where the halfway point is because I'm going to match that up to the halfway point in the neck. So let's find the halfway point in the neck. I'm just going to measure the 2 shoulder seams. Again, put a pin here so that I know where the center is. Okay, now my bias tape, I'm just gonna take, this is amazing, so much easier than last night. So this is my center, and this is my center. I'm gonna just fold it over the edge, put it right in the middle, and look how pretty that looks. It almost looks like a real hospital gown. Okay, so then we're gonna pin it all the way around this neckline, and then the edges will be the ties. Okay, there's your neckties. So now it ties. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so now we're gonna do the waist tie. Remember I said it ties in front. So remember this is 90 inches long. You can use a ribbon, you can use fabric folded in half. I'm not even gonna zigzag down this because it's already got this natural press in it and it is easy to tie as is. But if you have fabric and you cut it 1 inch wide and fold it in half, you may wanna zigzag. That's what I did on the one last night. So you want to measure 15 inches down from the neckline. In the middle, I'm just eyeballing it. Again, if the tie has to go around your full body. And then pin it, and you're really only going to sew a couple inches wide around the waist. The rest they will pull. It's not very pretty, but let's see if this thing works. Remember my thumb holes, I'll be putting my gloves on over. I don't know what they do with their hair, but I sew, I'm not a nurse. So, we've already finished all the edges. This, you want the gown to completely overlap. So these can come around, I can have them tie in front. So, when they untie, now the disposable ones, they rip off forward, their hands never go behind them. They are gonna have to just pull on a string to take this off. Again, this is critical condition situation. So this is what they do. They would take it off then and pull one string, pull the whole thing forward, ideally, you can get it all off. And then they would take their gloves off, dispose of it in a bin, and it would go in the wash and be sanitized and be used again.
Hey, make sure to like and subscribe to Mom's Special Sewing videos. Peace.